Welcome to Super Sorry, the podcast where we use superhero stories to explore apologies, accountability, and all the problems that could have been solved with a simple apology.
We're Todd and Amber, Marvel fans, creative collaborators, and two people who watch superhero movies and immediately start asking, okay, but who should apologize here?
If you're new to Super Sorry, we're currently making our way through the MCU one movie at a time. And today we're doing something a little different. But first, we want to say thank you. Over the last week, a lot of new listeners have discovered the show through our Spider-Man Brand New Day episode being featured on Apple Podcasts, which has been super exciting and a little surreal.
Definitely surreal.
So if this is your first episode, welcome. We are really glad that you're here.
And if you've been listening with us for a while, thank you for sticking around while we overanalyze Marvel movies and ask whether most of their problems could have been solved with an apology.
So today we're doing something a little different. And speaking of Spider-Man, something we've noticed over the last few weeks is that every Spider-Man conversation eventually circles back to the same movie.
Yeah, totally. It's Spider-Man 2.
Yes, Spider-Man 2, that's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and the film was directed by Sam Raimi, who left an indelible mark on the Spider-Man movies.
So today, we're asking a simple question. Why does Spider-Man 2 still cast such a long shadow over every Spider-Man movie that comes after it?
And because this is Super Sorry, we're looking at it through the lens of apologies, accountability, and the conversations that never happened. So let's dive in.
Before we get into apologies and accountability, what do you remember most about seeing Spider-Man 2 for the first time?
Well, honestly, I remember leaving the theater feeling like I love Spider-Man more than I did when I walked in.
Yeah, I think pretty much the same for me. And it's interesting because by today's standards, there are, bigger superhero movies, bigger action scenes by better special effects, and then bigger universes.
But I think there's something really special about Spider-Man 2. It just feels really real. I remember when the first Spider-Man movie came out on the heels of 9/11, and there was just like this connection to the city and the superhero. And when you see Spider-Man 2, it just continues that really moving connection between Spider-Man and New York City.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Everybody probably remembers, that runaway train. But what stayed with me wasn't, Spider-Man stopping the train. It was what happened afterward. The people that were carrying him, protecting his secrets, and those two little kids telling him they'd keep it safe.
Oh, God. That scene still works so well because for one moment, Spider-Man isn't just like a superhero. He's just a tired kid that's trying so hard and everybody can see it.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things I remember about the movie. Peter is, constantly trying and constantly failing.
And at the same time, I think that was pretty unusual because a lot of times superhero movies are about like becoming stronger, but Spider-Man 2 is more about a hero wondering if he can keep going.
Yeah, I mean, he's perpetually messing up and, falling behind on everything he's doing. He's late to work. He's late to school. He's late to his own birthday party. He's, missing relationships, losing jobs. The rent's now due. And his powers are acting weird now. Everything's just kind of falling apart on him.
And I think that might be why people feel so connected to him in this movie, because I think we can all relate to times where it feels so hard to keep your head above water. And most of us know what that feels like, to have too many responsibilities and not enough of ourselves to go around.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 made being Spider-Man feel costly.
Oh, I think that's good.
Thank you. Because I think that, that's what it is. Every choice cost Peter something. And I think that's what made a generation of people fall in love with Spider-Man. Not the powers, it's about the sacrifices, which is probably why every Spider-Man movie still gets compared to this one.
Yeah, I think they're looking for a movie that makes them feel the way that Spider-Man 2 made them feel.
And that brings us to the apology audit. This is where we look at who takes responsibility, who avoids it, and which apologies actually move the story forward. And Spider-Man 2 is basically an apology goldmine.
Half this movie is people desperately needing an honest conversation. And I guess the other half is people avoiding those conversations. So let's do some quick Super Sorry picks. Todd, what was your strongest apology or accountability moment?
Yeah, my Super Sorry, my fire pick is Peter telling Aunt May the truth about Uncle Ben. Because Peter has every reason not to tell her. He's, carrying now a couple of years worth of guilt, and he doesn't know how she's going to react. He doesn't know if she'll forgive him, but eventually he decides she deserves the truth.
It's such a good scene. And, it's clear he's not telling her, he's not expressing remorse because it's comfortable. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do, and it's the honest thing to do.
Exactly. The apology risks making things worse. Sometimes accountability does.
So my top choice is Doc Ock at the end of the film, because Otto spends the entire movie trying to justify what he's doing, but he's grieving, and then he's obsessed too, and he's listening to the arms. It's a lot. And he's convinced himself he's fixing everything, or at least the arms are convincing him of that. But eventually he realizes, and he stops making excuses.
And starts taking responsibility.
Exactly. His final act isn't really an apology with words, but it is taking accountability through his actions. He recognizes all the damage that he's caused, and he chooses to stop it, even when it costs him literally everything.
Which is, probably one of the strongest forms of accountability we've seen in a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Well, let's do a quick round of sorry, not sorry picks. Our misfire picks, the apologies or the moments that just go utterly wrong. And my pick is Peter's entire communication strategy with MJ, all of it.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And I totally understand why Peter keeps secrets, and I understand wanting to protect somebody. But there's a point where I'm protecting you becomes I'm making decisions for you, and that's where Peter gets into trouble. And we see this in other Spider-Man movies too. Peter keeps making decisions for other people.
We've talked about that a lot on this show. Good intentions don't erase impact.
Exactly.
Well, my misfire pick is Harry Osborn, because Harry becomes, attached to a version of this story in his head. He feels betrayed by Peter. Spider-Man killed his father. And once he commits to that story, he stops asking questions. He stops being curious. And accountability becomes almost impossible when you're no longer willing to consider that you might not know everything.
I think it's pretty clear Harry does not know everything. But I think you're right, because accountability sometimes starts with admitting that you could be wrong. And Harry isn't there yet. But now you have me wanting to talk about all the apologies I wish that we had seen. So I think it's now time for apologies that could have been. So we've talked about some of the apologies that did happen in Spider-Man 2, but now it's time for the apologies that never did.
Welcome back to the Super Sorryverse, our little corner of the multiverse where accountability gets a second chance.
Yep, this is where we talk about the apologies that could have been. And my first pick is Peter and MJ, because so much of their conflict comes from Peter deciding what's best for her without letting her participate in the decision, like I said.
That sounds familiar. Are we talking about Brand New Day, MJ? Or are we talking Spider-Man 2, MJ?
Well, it might apply across both, but for this movie, the apology that I'd want is, I'm sorry I kept making choices for you instead of trusting you with the truth.
And honestly, that's probably a pretty real-world apology.
Yeah, I think all of us have done some version of that, making a choice for others, thinking we're doing the right thing or the best thing, and it turns out it might not be the case.
Yeah, and my first pick is Harry apologizing to Peter. Not because Harry's feelings aren't valid. They are, but grief can make us cling to explanations, and Harry spends years holding on to an explanation instead of having a conversation with Peter, which may be one of the biggest tragedies in this movie.
Yeah, how much would have changed if Peter and Harry just had an honest conversation? They just keep on seeing each other, but brush all the real stuff under the rug. They just leave so much unsaid.
Yeah.
Well, what about J. Jameson apologizing to Spider-Man?
I think that's probably never going to happen. That might be an impossible apology.
Maybe that's wishful thinking then. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probably scheduled for never. And my last pick is New York apologizing to Peter, because this poor kid saves everybody. He's broke, exhausted. He's stopping trains. He's losing jobs. He's failing classes. And every day, somebody like J. Jameson writing an article about how Spider-Man is a menace.
Exactly. That's my whole point about Jameson. I think, honestly, maybe a citywide thank you card or thank you in general wouldn't be unreasonable.
Yeah, maybe just one.
Just one, or a fruit basket or something.
Or just about anything.
Yeah. So why does Spider-Man 2 still get compared to almost every Spider-Man movie that comes after it? I don't think it's the train scene, and I don't think it's Doc Ock, and I don't even think it's the incredible action and camera movement that Sam Raimi used. I think it's because the movie understands something deeply human, because sometimes doing the right thing hurts.
Peter wants to help everyone, but he can't. Otto wants to change the world, but he loses control. Harry wants justice, but grief gets in the way.
Everybody is carrying pain, and everybody is making mistakes, and everybody owes somebody a conversation.
Heroes don't become inspiring because they're powerful. They become inspiring because they're human.
And Peter Parker spends this movie failing. He avoids conversations. He makes mistakes. He lets people down. And he also tries to do the right thing, even if he doesn't always get there. And that somehow makes him more relatable instead of less, which is why I think Spider-Man 2 still matters.
We connect with him because he struggles, he gets things wrong, he owes people apologies, and he keeps trying anyway, kind of like the rest of us.
And that's our biggest takeaway. Being Spider-Man means something about being human, an aspirational way of living even in our darkest hours.
And that's our throwback mini Super Sorry take on Spider-Man 2.
And we also just released our full episode on Spider-Man Homecoming, so go check that out if you haven't already. Until next time, I'm Amber.
I'm Todd.
And we are
Super Sorry.
Super Sorry is written and hosted by Amber and Todd. Produced by A Super Sorry LLC. Music by Jam Studio. Your support helps us keep asking the hard questions and saying the hard apologies. Thanks for tuning in and sharing with friends.
One last thing. There's some debate out there of brand new days and improvement on Spider-Man 2. I think there's clearly one way Spider-Man 2 is better, and that's Peter's relationship with the young woman neighbor. In Spider-Man 2, she's bringing him cake and milk, and in Brand New Day, he's stealing her Juicy Couture sweatpants.
Super Sorry is not affiliated with Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures, Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, the Walt Disney Company, or Disney+. As of this recording, all Marvel characters mentioned in this episode are the property of the Walt Disney Company.